Okay, we're going to Wayne Madsen. I just want to give you a 1-minute summation of what I believe is happening here. I am not 100% sure that Western governments aren't involved in this, because we know NATO, the U.S., Israel, many others, on record, have financed revolutions all over the world. But they're almost always in countries that are run by people that aren't going under IMF, World Bank control. Tunisia, Yemen, they're even having unrest in Jordan. In all of these places, but in and around Egypt, these are dictatorships. And you see Biden defending that right now, and major newspapers are saying, why is the U.S. defending another dictator? The public, around half the public is on some form of food assistance. Right at half the population makes $2 or less a day. You look at these rioters, these demonstrators, they're very skinny. They look malnourished. They're hungry. And the IMF and World Bank have demanded in the last 6 months that the food allotments be cut. Imagine if the 43 million Americans on food stamps had that taken. You'd have unrest within a week or two. These people are starving in many cases in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Yemen, where the food allotments are being cut, especially in Tunisia and in Egypt. And so no matter how you slice it, the big central banks are creating this. And on top of them ordering the food cut, the prices are up because of dollar devaluation worldwide, and food is denominated in dollars in those nations. So commodities are going up, not just oil, but also food. So I don't see why the globalists would want to do this and why they want to be behind it. Some people are saying there's evidence of that. Egypt has shut down the internet. There were reports that Mubarak has fled. The police in the last 3 hours, the New York Times are reporting, are stopping to fight with the public and shaking hands and drinking bottled water together. The police are sharing their bottled water with them. Let's get Wayne Madsen, formerly with the National Security Agency. He's written for dozens of major newspapers and magazines. And, of course, is a routine analyst and expert that joins us. His website's the wayne-madsen-report.com. Wayne, what's your breakdown and your take on what's happening in the Middle East, North Africa?
Well, I think what's happening is the same thing we've seen happen on the streets of Athens. We've seen it in London. We've seen it in Ireland and Iceland. This is a reaction against what the global bankers have done to these economies. This is a Mediterranean issue. We've seen it play out in Italy. We've seen it play out in Greece and Spain. And why should North Africa be any different? Of course, they in North Africa have these long-time U.S.-supported thugs that we've relied on. Ben Ali in Tunisia, Mubarak in Egypt, and these others. And I think this is paybacks. Now, I find it interesting that the WikiLeaks cables talk about Egypt. They've just released a bunch, I guess, in the last 24 hours. But I think the people who might think that what we're going to see is like a liberal democracy arise, where the new leaders will go off to Davos and break bread with those hoodlums and gangsters that meet there every year, are mistaken. We know that the Arab street is not all that big on these U.S. and Western-imposed dictators, and we're seeing, I think, that play out in Egypt right now.
In fact, that's always been a bigger beef in the Arab and Central Asian nations, that our governments continue to install and fund dictators from the Shah running right through to today with Mubarak. They're more angry about that than the U.S. military presence.
Oh, absolutely. So the people, these commentators that are saying, oh, it's going to be wonderful, we're going to have, new governments in the Arab world, they're going to be moderate, they're going to be pro-Israel. Hey, forget it. The Arab street, especially the people in Egypt, know how Mubarak has brutalized those aid convoys trying to get into Gaza. They're at one with the people of that beleaguered territory, and they're not going to be sitting down and inviting the head of the IMF and World Bank to Cairo for meetings on austerity plans and the kinds of things we. So
you agree with my analysis then, because people I respect are with really no evidence. I've been seeing claims that the West is involved in this, and that it was WikiLeaks that triggered it, but I don't really see that. We've already been seeing unrest. I mean, this really comes down to food.
Yeah, I think what we may have seen there may be a little bit of truth in what these other folks are saying. I think there's been an attempt to co-opt the opposition in some of these countries to try to tamp it down, control the opposition, and I think that's failed. When we hear in Tunisia the Jasmine Revolution, now we're hearing about the Day of Rage in Egypt and in Yemen and in Lebanon. Well, that all smacks of George Soros-funded themed revolutions. But I think in this case, they've bitten off more than they can chew. We're not going to see them control these revolutions. The governments that come to power know fully well what people like George Soros and Barack Obama and George W. Bush have done to their part of the world, and they're not happy about it.
We're now seeing similar statements to what we saw last year out of Davos from George Soros about how he's having a wonderful crisis. Now he's saying this economic turmoil has been very good for me. He's up there gloating over it. Yeah. And I saw an Associated Press article on Monday out of Davos, headline, Davos calls for 100 trillion in additional credit, which means 100 trillion of taxpayer-backed money for them to then go loan to individuals, corporations, and countries, in some cases as high as 30% annual compounding interest. I mean, these guys are so brazen or chutzpah-filled, oh, yeah. I don't know what term to use, hubris-filled, when they're just saying, give us 100 trillion more. And you know, through the classic fractional reserve banking leverage, that would then be 1 quadrillion or 1,000 trillion. But now through the derivatives model, it's almost unlimited. I mean, this is insane.
Well, I hope these bankers in Davos are watching what's happening in the streets of Cairo, Alexandria, Tunis, Sana'a, Yemen, because, you know, this is not going to be contained in the Arab world. We're already seeing protests in some of these tin pot dictatorships in Africa, these Western-installed leaders there, and we're seeing it play out in Europe. I would note that what's happening in Tunisia and Algeria, let's not forget that there's large North African populations, for example, in France, and they see Sarkozy as no different than some of these tin-horn dictators that they're chasing out in North Africa. He basically was imposed on the French people. And I think we're going to see shockwaves go through some of these European countries. Now, as far as the United States, what happened yesterday, that commission that Obama named on the Wall Street fiasco came out and said, we're all at fault. I'm not at fault. You're not at fault. Who are they talking about?
Well, that's what his State of the Union was about, was this collective guilt, and that if you don't go along with what the bankers say, you don't believe in America anymore, and that we've got to just sit down and have austerity and accept the carbon tax, green jobs that are going to be everywhere, and everything is going to be just fine. I mean, this is incredible.
Well, yeah, and but I don't know. You know, I don't know what it would take for the American people to, you know, do what they're doing in Cairo. If the American people think they have a representative government, they're sadly mistaken in that, because we saw that play out in the State of the Union, where basically you had a meeting. That's the annual meeting of the oligarchy, and they're all sitting there. You know, everything is for public consumption. It's sort of like when the Queen opens up Parliament. It's all pomp and circumstance.
Wayne-Madsen, what do you make of the statements by Biden that Mubarak is not a dictator? That's like saying if a red cardinal is sitting in the tree outside my backyard, that it's not a red cardinal. It's like saying the sun comes up, that big ball of ignited gas isn't our sun. Here's the Sydney Morning Herald headline: revolution is in the air, but U.S. sticks to same old script. Washington appears addicted to propping up tyrants. What's your take on just a week and a half ago, our government saying, don't call, even going after Harry Reid, when he finally had a Freudian slip and called who a dictator. Now we're being told that, we're not allowed to talk bad about Mubarak, even though he's a horrible, murdering, torturing dictator. We're told he's a great guy. I mean, what does this say about our government, though, that they love dictatorship? That tells us what type of government they want here.
Yeah, well, that's because we're a dictatorship. Let's not mince words here. I mean, what we hear every day about police brutality in this country and the frittering away of more constitutional rights. I mean, and Biden, as far as Biden's concerned, I mean, this guy always allows his overactive mouth override his lack of gray matter. I mean, he's been trying to grow hair plugs for how long now? Well, he needs something. That hair plugs need something to root in, and it's hard to grow them when what's underneath is a vacuum.
Wayne, we're about to go to break, but I wanted to throw this point out. The New York Times and others are reporting, but it's not getting a lot of attention, that in many areas of Alexandria and now Cairo, the police will get into an hour-long, 2-hour battle, and then they're just joining as the people, chant, be an Egyptian, don't be a traitor, and the police are throwing down their weapons and going and hugging and joining and giving their water and their Gatorade and things to the people. I mean, that looks like shades of '89 in Romania.
All right, and there's also reports on Al Jazeera that the military is now coming out and flashing the V sign to the protesters. So I would say Mubarak, if he's not at the airport getting ready to fly out, that may happen very soon. And, the U.S. has trained a lot of these Egyptian military officers, but this may be paybacks as well. We trained them. We brought them over here in some cases for training, but they know full well what it's like to be an Arab in the United States. Can you imagine what they've faced at the airports, even though they may be traveling with diplomatic passports? You reap what you sow, and if the military takes part with the people in this revolution, I don't think the military's rank and file's all that pro-American.
By the way, Mubarak's now called out the army. They're machine gunning people on the streets, and that caused the police to now remove their uniforms. They've begun joining. That's confirmed. Egypt is about to fall to the people.